Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Like everyone else, I'm sure that you woke up and you went on Twitter or you went on Facebook today and noticed that today is the 20-year anniversary of the nWo. Actually, I guess becoming the nWo. Scott Hall debuted on WCW Nitro, I believe in like maybe March, maybe April is when he made the jump. Maybe April makes more sense because I don't think he definitely didn't work that year's WrestleMania because he was replaced by Roddy Piper in the Gold Dust. It was supposed to be a Miami street fight, and Kevin Nash, I think, did work that WrestleMania, and I think his contract ended a few weeks after, and that's why I think it took 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe for him to come out during that face-off between Scott Hall and Sting at the end of Nitro. And then Kevin Nash, of course, cut the promo of the "Look at the Adjective" play. And but I can remember that, honestly, I didn't watch a lot of WCW Monday Nitro. I would flip back and forth, but I was always a WWE Monday Night Raw guy, even though the shows weren't spectacular. They were just the brand that I always watched. WCW was the brand that I sort of watched when either WWF wasn't on at the time or just something bad was on there. But something, captivized me, or whatever the word I'm trying to look for. I mean, something really drew me in with the nWo angle. I knew that, with Diesel and Razor Ramon being on WCW television, that something was happening that was really a big deal. I really, there was no internet, there was no, observer at my fingertips or anything like that. So basically, it was like the good old days. I was just watching, like I was a fan. Well, there was the internet at that time, but honestly, I didn't have it. I remember that I watched the Bash at the Beach 1996 on the box, as people like to call it, and I watched it at my dad's house. I remember watching the show and not really thinking that it was spectacular, but waiting until the main event. And then I really honestly thought the main event was kind of screwy. If you remember watching the main event, of course it was Macho Man, it was Lex Luger, and it was Sting in the match. And early in the match, only 2 guys wrestled for the Outsiders, and I think it was Mean Gene Okerlund ran down trying to figure out who the third man was and what kind of shenanigans they were trying to pull. Putting only 2 guys against 3 of the best guys that WCW had to offer, and basically saying that the third guy was there, not to worry. He'd come out when they needed him, if they even did. And that's a huge thing, to go into that match basically being the Outsiders and to give them a one-man advantage. Early on in the match, they took Lex Luger out, running him into the post, and he got injured. And right then, I really sort of thought that Lex Luger was going to be the third guy. They take him out of the match, he come down, he do the turn, and then it's Luger, Nash, and Hall. I think that's basically what they set up for most of the fans to think. And as the match went on and Hulk Hogan finally made his way out, even though Bobby Heenan, when you watch it back now, everybody says Heenan gave the finish away. Heenan swears that he didn't give the finish away because WCW never told him any of the finishes. He just was playing Bobby Heenan, and that's what Heenan always did, through WWF and WCW. He never liked Hulk Hogan, always tried to sort of, show him off as a fraud, and I think that's just what he was trying to do, basically trying to get people to think that Hogan would turn, thinking in his head there's no way in the world that WCW is going to lose this match to the nWo, and no way that Hulk Hogan's trying to turn heel, because I think that's one of the things that shocked everybody so much. But Hogan turned, and definitely, the fans threw the crap into the ring, and from there, they did nWo on WCW Monday Nitro, and it was pretty much the same thing. And the nWo grew up to be one of the biggest, baddest things that there ever was in professional wrestling. I think that they would have kept it a 3-man group. It definitely would have been looked at as a different thing than it's looked at as today. A lot of people look back at it as thinking of the guys like Michael Wall Street, Big Bubba, The Nasty Boys weren't really in there, but there was a good matter of time when they were associated with the NWO, trying to have Hall and Nash beat the Steiners. Guys like, you know, the Booty Man, Brutus Beefcake as the disciple of Hulk Hogan that turned on him to join One Warrior Nation. That's right, One Warrior Nation had 2 guys in it at one point. But it is what it is. People will always remember, you know, Stevie Ray and Virgil and Kurt Hennig fighting over the NWO B team, when basically they reunited the NWO after it split up, and they made the NWO Wolfpack Elite or whatever it was after they, you know, did the finger poke of doom, and stuff like that. But I love the NWO. You know, I've always been there. I always was a fan of the NWO. I'm not one of those guys that gonna say I jumped on because everybody else was buying the t-shirt. I knew it was something big right off the bat, and it made it where WCW was must-watch television. And maybe the NWO ran too long. I think it ran almost until its dying day of them just trying to bring it back. At one point they had NWO 2000, which was like, I think it was Hall, Nash, Bret Hart, Jeff Jarrett, and I think at one point the Harris brothers were even in there. And of course that's not going to be the NWO, but I think they thought that, you know, as long as they had the NWO, definitely those t-shirts were going to sell. And that's one thing that really exposed why the NWO ran too long. When they publicized Hulk Hogan's WCW contract, they paid him $20,000 a month just to wear an NWO t-shirt on Monday Nitro. That's all he had to do to make 20 grand, was wear a t-shirt. So of course, as long as the group is going strong, he's going to wear the t-shirt. We haven't seen Kevin Nash's deal, but many people can think of, you know, when Kevin Nash was a babyface and he was the champion, there was no NWO, but he always wore the NWO gear. And at the time I thought it was just because NWO was over and people always wanted to see it reunite in some way. I have the tie-dye t-shirt that Nash wore for a while when he was champion, and I bet that Kevin Nash had that kind of a deal in his contract as well, to wear the shirt and make a ton of money. So of course you're going to make it and hope that you sell it and make money off royalties. People have seen that Nash still makes money off of royalties from WWE selling the NWO merch. That's one of the reasons why when Hogan did what he did, they pulled the NWO merch, and then Kevin Nash, it said that he personally flew to Connecticut to work out a deal to make sure that they're selling this stuff, to make sure that he's still making royalty money selling the NWO stuff, because he knows that because of the legacy of the NWO, that it's still going to sell and it's still going to make a ton of money. So 20 years of the NWO running strong. Everybody can pick it apart, what was wrong with it, what was good with it. You know, too many guys, but without too many guys, Hall, Nash, and Hogan weren't going to be able to look unbeatable. You had to have Big Bubba Rogers, you had to have Kurt Hennig, you had to have Stevie Ray, I apologize. You know, to lose some matches here and there along the way to make it look like WCW had a chance. But I think if you would have kept it, you know, 6, Hogan, you know, Bischoff, Nash, and Hall, it would have definitely been one of the strongest looking stables of all time. And who knows how they would have run with it and what they would have done. But